Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Hey, welcome back, everyone. Whenever you hear this term, it's somewhat alarming and somewhat uncomfortable. When somebody says, hey, they're a control freak. Hey, well, stay away. They're a control freak over there. Well, you have one in your life, and you probably don't even know that there's a control freak in your life that is holding you back from doing things that you want to achieve, goals, abundance, and all of that. The control freak is you. And you're probably not aware that it's your subconscious, your mind, that's holding you back. We are going to talk about that today and how to get a handle on this control freak. And I'm talking, the majority of the decisions you make every second of every day at the hands of this control freak, i.e. your subconscious. He's somebody that helps people move their life forward, make these realizations as a certified hypnotherapist, also certified in what's known as NLP and EFT. And he joins us once again today on the program. Dennis Marciniak is on the program. How you doing?
I'm good. Nice to be here.
Good to have you back. And we started talking about hypnotherapy, but when you think about this thing, the subconscious, controlling us, it's pretty much controlling most decisions that we're making, aside from the decision to breathe, or maybe it is, I'm not even sure, but it's extremely impactful in our lives, right?
It is, and sometimes people are aware of their thoughts, sometimes so much so that people can't turn their thoughts off or can't control their thoughts, and people will take different approaches to do that. But one thing that we don't understand sometimes is that our thoughts and the way we speak to ourselves is received on a couple different levels. When we're really conscious and aware of what we're talking about or looking at or focusing on, the conscious mind can absorb a negative. We can say, "Don't do this," or you can say to a little child, "Stop running at the pool," for example, and consciously, you get that. Okay, stop running, but that communication is happening on two levels. It's also happening on our subconscious level, and the subconscious doesn't process a negative. Subconscious focuses on the running part. So in a sense, you're giving a mixed signal. You're telling your conscious to stop running, but your subconscious hears the word running. And it's much more constructive to use a positive reframe, walk, rather than stop running, walk, stay safe, walk. So that your conscious mind hears the walk, but also your subconscious mind focuses on the walk. So then you're in concert. You're not fighting with yourself, and that's what you're referring to with regards to the control issue. Is like sometimes we try through willpower and through our conscious choices to make a choice, pick a path, so to speak, to walk down, but our subconscious is fighting with us because we've been programmed from young on in a different way, in a different fashion. And we talk about hypnosis and the other modalities also in terms of it being behavior modification. Because we develop habits that we can kind of just go on automatic pilot and kind of cruise through big chunks of our day. But there's the potential to have everything kind of going in harmony, and you don't stop a habit, you replace a habit. So if I tell you, don't eat or don't drink or don't do this or don't do that, it's not constructive because again, you replace a certain behavior with a more productive, more flexible, more versatile, more enlightened behavior. And being able to speak to the subconscious mind really enhances the ability to trade out an old behavior for something that's more productive.
So I've never heard that when you want to change a habit, it needs to be replaced. I did hear that habits only happen typically when there's something positive or pleasurable coming out of it. Is that true?
Well, it's a constant. I was going to use the word fight, but that's a little too dramatic. But there's a choice that's made. So it's kind of like risk versus reward, and so our subconscious mind is really there to protect us, to help us through uncomfortable situations, and it'll guide us to, if it's not more pleasure, at least it's less pain, so to speak. So, you as a youngster, you might find yourself in a situation where you're being reprimanded, and maybe it's a teacher, maybe it's your parent, whatever, and somehow on the spot, you come up with a great idea to just lie about the situation, and so somehow that got you through that first time. They didn't press the issue, and what's been imprinted in your subconscious is that the way I can get through tight situations is just to lie every time. Eventually that catches up to you. Eventually you get labeled a certain way. You get treated a different way because you're now labeled a liar, so to speak. So yeah, we kind of just go towards pleasure or less pain, if we have options in front of us.
Quick question on the running by the pool. So we reframe it and we say, hey, you need to walk. Please walk. But a lot of times they'll say, or you'll fall and get hurt. So the subconscious,
right.
Is it also listening? Yeah, you're gonna fall. You're going to get hurt because your subconscious is hearing, hey, fall, hurt. Yeah. Let me help you. Right.
Very, very good point. Really observant point. That's excellent. Yeah. I mean, you start off with the positive of walk, but then you throw in the the consequence. So
right. And it's all well taken. The intent is there, but we don't realize what the subconscious is doing. And it's my understanding it wants to protect you. It's doing the best for you, but it's kind of dumb. Like, it doesn't know time. So it's acting on cues from when you were a child, doesn't know you're an adult now, no time frame, and it doesn't know good from bad. It just hears words and then it's going to react to that. Is that essentially true?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, from birth on, we're accumulating experiences, and a child really learns a lot by modeling. You model after your parents, you model after grandparents, different people that are in your life that you look up to, and the behaviors that are happening around us impact us much more than we realize. So some of the experiences that we have are positive, and some are negative. Someone says don't touch the hot oven. And our curiosity gets the best of us, and we do touch the hot oven. Well, okay, we've got that experience. Now from my own understanding of hot, I know not to touch the hot oven. So what happens is that if some of these negative experiences build up, it can kind of create this restriction on us. It can get us to a point where we're even afraid to move. I've worked with people who were agoraphobic and they couldn't leave their home. Hard to explain, the whole buildup of many different events actually that got it to the point where they got so frozen that they couldn't leave their home. So obviously that's a behavior that's not productive anymore. That maybe it was born out of some situations that were instructive and helped you learn in certain situations, but somehow the compilation of all those experiences have led you to a point where you're frozen and you can't move in life anymore.
Can we, and I want to get to the language part of this, which we started with, maybe that segs into NLP and also EFT, but before we go there, what would be, just to illustrate what's happening with the subconscious, somebody has agoraphobia. What could be a potential, going hypothetical here, potential situation placed in their subconscious that would be prevent them from moving their life forward because of agoraphobia? Well,
it's kind of interesting, and it almost can dovetail a little bit into NLP. The way NLP was developed was there are two gentlemen that actually founded it, John Grinder and Richard Bandler. And Richard Bandler was actually a mathematician. He was a musician also, but he was a mathematician and a computer guy. And he was teaching music to a psychiatrist's son. And he got to interacting with the psychiatrist, and one thing led to another. And he started questioning the psychiatrist. What have you ever helped people with ultimately? And without getting into a lengthy story, the issue is NLP is focusing on solutions rather than problems. So on one hand, with that agoraphobic person, it can be helpful to understand some of the machinations that have taken place in that person's life to get them to that point of freezing. But the biggest focus is to find a solution for that, to in a sense unfreeze them. People, when they talk about hypnosis, and one of the fears or negative connotations is that that it's some kind of mind control or it's some kind of programming people, and more so than programming people, it's deprogramming people. It's allowing people to break a pattern that somehow, it started as a habit, and with something as difficult as agoraphobic, it's more than just a habit. It's become this whole pattern that's taken place in their life. So how do we disrupt that pattern? Obviously, with any kind of phobia, it's fear-based. So it's probably a series of different fear-based experiences that got this person to the point where they were afraid to function. They were afraid to make a mistake. That's one thing about an adult versus a child, and that's also something that we learn using hypnosis and NLP, is that if we can get back to that childlike learning where we're not afraid to make a mistake, we're not afraid to be criticized, we're not afraid of thinking of negative consequences. It's kind of, here's an experience, let's experience new things. So you get to a point where you're so frozen from having being beaten and battered by life's experiences that you're afraid to move. You're afraid to make a mistake. You're afraid to generate negative feedback. You've lost a certain amount of innocence and a certain amount of joy of just learning and growing and living and loving and moving in your life. So,
what would you replace that with? You're working with somebody, as I understand it, with hypnotherapy. And side note here, game changer for me, don't have agoraphobia, but we all got something going on. And the hypnotherapy has been extremely impactful and eye-opening for me. But as you said before, you replace it with something else. So somebody has agoraphobia, fear of open spaces, panic attacks, things like that. what would you replace that with? What suggestion would you make? And again, this is a hypothetical. We're just throwing concepts and just ideas out.
Well, there can often be like two levels, and the simplest level is just to get that person moving again. So, you might just suggest something to that effect. That putting a more positive construct rather than in your own self-talk, talking about how I'm fearful and frightened. Suggest to them that I'm open to overcoming my fears. I'm open to learning new things, and then you might, in a sense, make a suggestion through finding out what their interests were, or maybe knowing what their background was. This particular woman that I was working with, she was a musician in years past. She hadn't picked up an instrument in many years, but just suggesting that maybe she'd start to play with her guitar again. That can get her moving on the most basic level. On a deeper level, you in hypnosis, because you're making suggestions, you're actually talking to the subconscious mind. You can thank the subconscious mind for being so there for that person to protect them and help them and keep them from all their fears, but that it's no longer working. And so you actually suggest to the subconscious mind that you get a little bit more creative, you get a little bit more resourceful, find new and better ways that allows, I'll just use the word Amy, that allows Amy to move forward in her life and function in a more practical and sensible way. So it's very fascinating. The thing about our brains is that our conscious mind especially, it's not as fantastic as we think it is. We think of willpower and we're in control and we're in charge and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And in fact, we get overwhelmed. Our conscious mind gets overwhelmed quickly. And so to absorb information, our brain automatically does three things. It generalizes about certain things and certain information, or even having an experience. When we play that experience back, we make some generalizations about it because we can't absorb everything. Like if you're a witness of a crime, you'll have two witnesses standing right next to each other and you'll get two different versions of the story, because each person has made their own generalization about that particular event and what happened right before their eyes. There's as part of that mechanism, there's not only generalization, but we ended up deleting information because there's no way our conscious mind takes in everything that happened. And we also distort some of the information. So we'll be so sure that the guy looked one way, and we've got the sketch artist, making a composite picture of the person, and then the other guy's got a whole different picture of what this guy looked like. So what happens is, especially with phobias, if you can, in a sense, challenge a generalization, it becomes like a house of cards. Because if this generalization is false, then what other things am I assuming or generalizing about my situation, that could also be false? So if you can get a person moving, like maybe get this person to start playing her guitar again, for example, the interesting thing is it often collapses a whole bunch of other generalizations that she's made about her life and being frozen and being relegated to being a prisoner in her own house. So it's kind of like you or what's that game, the Jenga, where you pull out the
Mm-hmm.
the wooden, the whole thing comes down. So what's amazing is that sometimes if you can just get something to teeter a little bit, then this whole house of cards of a phobia could come crashing down.
So when it comes to NLP, neuro linguistics programming, we're talking about the language again, the language we use with ourselves, maybe with others. Because of time, let's look at that real briefly. What happens there, maybe versus hypnotherapy?
Well, with NLP, and again, it's because the founders. John Grinder was a linguist. That was his background, and then Richard Bandler, he was more into the brain, and that's kind of where the neural part comes from. But they modeled three different people. One was Fritz Perls, who was the Gestalt guy. He was a psychiatrist. Richard Satir, she was a psychiatrist also, but she focused on family therapy, and she really worked intuitively. And then Milton Erickson was the hypnotherapist that they modeled, and he also operated very intuitively. And so they were focused on how are they creating solutions rather than how are they treating problems. And so basically they are modeling their expertise, and out of that they came up with a pattern, a program, so to speak, that had to do also really underscoring and recognizing some of the things that I've already shared. Like the unconscious mind doesn't really process a negative. So focus on solutions, focus on going forward. They also go ahead. You had a question.
This is used in advertising all the time. How many times have you heard a commercial that says, "Stop! Don't buy a car now." Until you go to the ABC car lot, because we got great selection and great deals going on right now. But using the language, to your point, your brain hears right away, "Stop! Don't do this."
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's going to do this when you find out why you should go to the ABC car lot. So very effective in how marketers key into our subconscious and what's going to resonate and what technically is not going to resonate for us.
Yeah. What these guys did though is like when we have, let's say we have a negative experience in our life, we tend to have like an image of it in our mind, and if I were to tell you to visualize or picture that particular image of that negative experience, the amazing thing is that people will spend hours a day thinking about something that they should have done or could have done or wish they had done, and so we waste a lot of time. But you take that image of that negative experience and ask them, where is it? If you just close your eyes for a second, or you don't even need to close your eyes, is that image in front of you? If it is, how big is that image? And a lot of times, if it's something really on people's mind, it'll be like this big image because it's overtaking their life. It's overtaking their consciousness. And then in a visual sense, shrink that image down. Put a 2-inch black border around that image, or whatever their favorite color is. Put that border around that image. And it's almost like, okay, I got the border around that image. Neurologically, that image is now not leaking into my every waking moment. I mean, it's amazing. It's basically a disruption of a neurological pattern in your brain that allows you to be free.
I've never heard that before.
Yeah.
I've never heard that. And what does that, what category would that come under? Is that NLP?
That's NLP. That? Yeah, that's fully NLP.
I got to tell you, neuro linguistics programming right away. I was only thinking about it's the language we use, whether it's verbal or we're just hearing it in our minds, repeating these negative things over again. I didn't know that there was a potential visual component there in terms of shrinking something down. Wow. That's pretty wild.
Yeah. Well, that's the neural part because, again, the neural connections that our brain has connected to emotional situations. It gets even funnier in a way. It's like you've got this nagging thing that's like a black cloud hanging over your head that all of a sudden. I mean, people even get suicidal. I don't mean to be making light of this, but it can be such a heavy thing in people's heads. So you can even like have people visualize that heavy thing that's consuming you, and make all the voices in that image talk like Sylvester the cat, or like Donald Duck, and what happens is just by changing that component in your own internal image of that experience, it breaks a pattern, and it becomes like that house of cards where you made this generalization, and what you've done is you've dislodged a certain neural connection that this whole thing isn't as serious anymore. All of a sudden, it's like,
would you say, have you ever heard this where you have a fear of public speaking? So now you're in front of a room of 100 people. You're nervous, it's like one of the top 3 fears, public speaking. And it's often been said, visualize everybody not wearing clothes.
Right.
So they're vulnerable too. And it's kind of funny in your mind seeing that picture. Is that essentially, in the same kind of vein of?
Same vein. Absolutely the same vein. It changes your reaction but it changes your neurology actually.
Wow.
Which changes your reaction to the situation that you're in. And all of a sudden you can laugh at yourself, or you can laugh at the situation, or at least smile.
Yeah.
At least just some of the tension goes out, and you go do your thing, and then you're not focused on the issue. You're not focused on the past experience. You're focused on, hey, I want to fly. I want to go forward. I want to go and create and
amazing,
be successful. Yeah.
Wow. I learned a lot here today, and I always wondered about visualizing people without clothes on. Like, what is that really going to do? Ha ha ha. Okay, now I see there's science behind it.
There is.
Fascinating. Didn't get to EFT. Maybe next time. How do we connect with you, Dennis? If somebody's looking to make a change in their life, try and figure this all out, what do they do?
My website is unconsciousedge.com. My phone number and how to connect with me is all on the website. I do Zoom sessions, and I also do in-person sessions.
And you're located in California, right?
Yes, I'm in Woodland Hills, California, San Fernando Valley. Yeah.
Wow. Amazing how this all works. And again, I've done hypnotherapy, even had a session like 6 weeks ago. It works. It's great. And now there's so much more here, that we're learning about through you, NLP, EFT, and so much more. Life-changing. It really is. Thank you for being here today. Really learned a lot. Things I wondered about, validated. Super cool. Looking forward next time we get together.
All right. Fantastic. Thanks, Steve.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
It's Thursday night, and you're grabbing drinks with some friends. Started off with a pitcher for the table, which quickly becomes 2. There's pool. And there's the photo booth.
All right, everybody squeeze in. Say cheese!
Followed naturally by an order of wings. And another.
Can we get some extra ranch sauce?
Then there's the ceremonial nightcap.
So what are we doing this weekend?
And lastly, it's back to the car, which, if you're buzzed, could be the most expensive night of your life. Getting pulled over for buzzed driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzzed driving, because buzzed driving is drunk driving. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.